Okay, so you're thinking about moving to Redlands, California. Well, in this video, I'm actually going to highlight some of the things that you should probably be aware of before you come to town. You know, Redlands does have a few drawbacks that perhaps might just take some getting used to. They're definitely mostly pros that outweigh the cons, but I don't want to, just sugarcoat everything and say that life is actually absolutely perfect here in Redlands, because there are some things that have, evolved over the years that perhaps not everyone is a major fan of. But please do stick around to the end of the video, where I'll share with you just a little insight about Redlands that I think you will be happy to consider before you make your move to Redlands. So let's get started. If this is your first time to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to learn about living here in Redlands. And in this case, some of the potential downfalls you should consider before moving to Redlands. Whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, my name is Peter Kane. I work with Century 21 Lois Lauer here in town, and I would be delighted to show you around town. And again, not just sugarcoat everything for you, show you what life is actually like here in Redlands. So let's go ahead and get started. So right off the bat, number one, now this is mostly a pro, but talking about the weather here in Redlands, for perhaps 3, depending on the season, maybe 4 months out of the year, we do get some extreme heat here in Redlands in the Inland Empire. It happens from about July through August, most of September, and sometimes even into October, where we get just an onslaught of summer heat with no precipitation or any kind of rain whatsoever. Now, this year in 2023, our weather from January, February, really all the way through to June right now has been absolutely amazing. Like I said, the weather here is mostly a pro, but I mean, this year it's been a huge pro in my mind. We even got some snow towards late January, and lots of rain through March, April, and May. And so the weather has been really mild. But again, once summer truly kicks in, you can really expect to feel that summer heat for 3 or 4 straight months. If you don't have a pool yourself at your home, you're likely to meet friends, neighbors, whoever that do have swimming pools. Very popular here in town. That does help quite a bit, just be able to just kind of take a load off and jump in the pool and cool down. But summer heat is, I would say, definitely one of the cons of living here in Redlands. Now, another potential downside of living here in Redlands and Southern California in general is traffic and just congestion in general. Southern California is a very populated region of the country, and so if you're not used to living here, it'll definitely take some time adjusting to that. If you're coming from Los Angeles or San Diego or perhaps the Bay, it'll work in the other way, right? Because everything is relative. But if you're coming from the Midwest or Oregon, Washington State, Texas, wherever it may be, where you're used to just more wide open space, real estate here in Southern California and in Redlands is definitely crowded. So you'll have to get used to just kind of planning out your trips, planning out your days. You want to think about what time of day you're leaving for work every day, how you're going to get there, or if you're going out on day trips, definitely just consider, the best way to get there, what time you should be leaving. Like, you don't want to be leaving, Orange County to get back to Redlands at 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's going to take you probably 2.5 hours. It would suit you to wait until, leave until 6:30, and it'll take you an hour 15 minutes. So just things like that, that you should definitely think about as you're getting used to living here in Southern California. Okay, so let's get positive. Let's think about a pro of living here in Redlands. Geographically, just speaking in terms of Southern California, Redlands is very centrally located. we're depending on different parts of Orange County, you can get to the beach for a nice beach stay in, depending on traffic, as little as 45 minutes to an hour. If you're going to a beach, perhaps North San Diego County, maybe more like an hour and a half, maybe closer to 2 hours. Okay, so day trips are really quite easy. We're only about an hour from some mountain resorts, right? Big Bear, if you're into skiing and snowboarding. And then you have some other mountain resorts like Snow Valley, and then a little bit further up, a bit of a longer trip up to Mammoth. But you can tell that, it's quite easy to make fun day trips starting here in Redlands. If you want to go downtown Los Angeles, if you're a sports fan, you want to see the Lakers or the Clippers or LA Sparks, whatever you're into, that's only about an hour, maybe hour and 15 minutes away to Los Angeles from Redlands. You also have, going further east, Palm Springs, very popular destination, especially during the winter time. A lot of folks, the snowbirds, will come from all over the country and really all over the world to kind of experience Palm Springs in the winter months when it's not so hot. Living in Redlands, that's just a 45, 50-minute drive headed further out east. You have lots of hikes, if you're an outdoors person, available first locally in Redlands, like San Mateo Canyon. And then if you want to get a little bit more adventurous, you can head out to the San Bernardino Mountains. Forest Falls is only about 35 minutes. Okay, so just lots and lots of activities you can get into based here in Redlands, California. Definitely a pro. You can find things to do, and you don't need to necessarily stay overnight. Another huge part of living in Southern California, if you're into wine tasting, there are tons of wineries in the Temecula area. And then if you want to go a little bit further up the coast towards like Santa Barbara area, definitely opportunities to do that. So just no shortage of activities that you can knock off and enjoy yourself living here in Redlands. Now, another con of living in Redlands, and this is not exactly tied to our hot summer months, but kind of related, because I would consider it weather really, is just the amount of wildfires that happen in Southern California. Not necessarily in Redlands, although sometimes it does happen kind of close, but Redlands is pretty much surrounded by mountains. San Bernardino Mountains are really close, Mount San G, Mount San Jacinto, further east, Mount Baldy. So we're pretty much in this Inland Empire Valley, right? And unfortunately, these wildfires are a regular occurrence, and depending on the wind and depending on the size of the fire, Redlands definitely catches the ashes that result from these fires. I can remember going all the way back to I think it was my freshman year perhaps my sophomore year of high school. There was a bad one, I think close to Big Bear area. It was so bad that our school district had to cancel school for a few days because it was just unhealthy to be outside. So that kind of stuff does happen regularly. Now, canceling school, it's not always that intense, but just the repetitive nature of, wildfires in Southern California, unfortunately, is just something you kind of have to get used to. Okay, so another potential downfall of living here in Redlands and kind of just California in general, you may already be used to this if you've lived in other parts of California, but property taxes are quite a bit higher here than, let's say, if you're used to living just in other parts of the country. Just kind of a way of life, one of the benefits of living here is just, the natural beauty of being able to, drive to the beach 45 minutes or an hour away, or get to the mountains or get to the desert, down to San Diego. We have lots of just options, right? And a lot of just free options, right? Just to enjoy the outdoors. But if you do live here, you do pay for it in a sense with the amount of property taxes that you'll be paying each year. There are ways, if your family's residence, has been in your family for a while. The good news is, let's say that, perhaps you're inheriting your parents' residence. The good news is with the recent passage of Prop 19, your tax basis will be as if, the property that you're now occupying was purchased way back when your parents bought it. So there are ways to, make living in California not so difficult in terms of taxes, but compared to other parts of the country, California definitely has, and Redlands in general, definitely has high taxes. Okay, jumping back to the positives of living in Redlands, and that is the Redlands Unified School Districts. According to niche.com, in all of San Bernardino County, which is, I'm pretty sure, the biggest county in the entirety of California, although much of it is unpopulated because it goes all the way out through the desert out to Nevada. So geographically, I think it's the biggest, but in terms of population, pretty sure LA County is the biggest. However, Redlands Unified, according to niche.com, is the #1 school district in the county. All the way from TK, right, transition kindergarten, kind of like a warm-up year for your young students, all the way through graduation when they're seniors. Redlands ranks among the best in terms of public schools. We have 16 or 17 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, 3 comprehensive high schools, as well as a continuation school, which has been modeled as one of the best continuation schools in the country, and as well as adult school for those who never finished getting their high school diploma as students, or as children, I should say, and online school, as well as a long-term homeschooling situation where perhaps if the student has extenuating circumstances and just can't physically be at school for a long period of time, Redlands Unified offers the choice to families to kind of tailor a schooling program based at home. They complete that whenever they're ready to transition back to the actual physical school, they can. According to niche.com, Redlands Unified ranks as the 35th best school districts for student athletes in the entire state of California. So again, like I said, those 3 comprehensive high schools all have, extensive sports programs if your student is into athletics. Recently, in the last about 5 or 6 years, the middle schools have actually kind of revamped their athletics programs so that, the 9th graders aren't coming to high school with zero sports experience. Hopefully they've had a little bit of sports team experience at the middle school level so that they can progress to the high school level. According to niche.com, nationally, Redlands Unified ranks as the 307th out of over 11,000 school districts as the most diverse. So your student will definitely have experiences with a diverse set of classmates, staff, and teachers. Now, if you are an educator yourself, California ranks as the 60th out of 689 school districts ranked in the state. So definitely a community, a school district where your salary is comparable mostly to the cost of living in the area. Like, you can definitely make a career out of being a teacher. It starts, your base salary increases each year as you progress through your teaching career. Redlands Unified actually just got a 11.6%, I think it was, raise. So definitely a lot more competitive compared to surrounding school districts. We get a lot of excellent students, and kind of for that reason, the salary was always a little bit lower than surrounding school districts. But the Redlands Unified Teacher Association really did an excellent job of going to bat for the teachers and getting that raise that school teachers really deserve. So definitely a very good place to establish your career as an educator. As you can tell from a lot of the stats that I shared with you about Redlands Unified from niche.com, the school district is a definite bonus living here in Redlands. Now, there are also alternative school options if you don't want to take the public school route. There are a number of private, perhaps Christian schools as well as charter schools in the area, so you can definitely find what you're looking for your child's education. Now, another pro to living in Redlands is a very diverse set of options in terms of faith and religion. Now, I'm not going to get into all kinds of churches that are available here, but you would notice just kind of driving through town that there are just tons and tons of churches and places of worship here in Redlands. I think there's actually an intersection if you're driving down Cajon towards downtown. I think it's Cajon and Olive, where there's a church literally on every single, there's 4 churches on every single point of that intersection. Whatever your attitude, beliefs are towards religion, I think you'll definitely be able to find one for you. And if you're not religious at all, there's definitely no pressure, or it's not like, there are plenty of other things to do and community-based organizations, that have nothing to do with religion, if that's not your thing. Now, another con about living in Redlands, although, I guess it just kind of depends on your own attitudes, your own point of view. Some people really like that small town feeling, others perhaps not so much. So it does have a small town. I mean, it's all relative, right? Like, I grew up in Redlands, and I met plenty of friends in college who grew up, really in actual small towns, with just a few streetlights, or perhaps this town only had stop signs. So it's not that small. You can get most of your daily needs. In my other videos, I've talked about Citrus Plaza, Mountain Grove. So all your shopping is really very available. Plenty of grocery stores, plenty of gyms to exercise. We've talked about the school district. So everything is very solid. But in terms of like big shopping areas, you may have to travel a little bit. Like if you want to go to Costco or Sam's Club, or perhaps you need to get like to the Apple store. Those kinds of things are a little bit further out. Sam's Club or Costco is just in the other town over in a bigger city in San Bernardino. So that's more of a trip where you have to venture out of Redlands. If you need to get to an Apple store, I think the closest one is in Victoria Gardens, so like Rancho Cucamonga area. So that's about a 35 minute trip. So, it does have most of what you need, but every once in a while, you do need to venture outside of Redlands to get what you're looking for. We do have a number of car dealerships in town, but depending, on the brand of car you're looking for, you may need to travel a little bit further south to Riverside or San Bernardino, wherever it may be. So a bit of a con there, just some in that kind of small town setting, small city setting, you may have to venture outside the city limits to get everything that you're looking for. Now, another major pro of living here in Redlands, I would say, is Redlands does have Redlands Community Hospital on the west side of town on Terracina Boulevard, a very well established, ranked hospital that will serve your needs just about, depending on, where your coverage is. Let's say your coverage is Kaiser, you may have to venture out to Fontana or Riverside a little bit further, depending on your medical coverage. But definitely very well-ranked hospital here in town in Redlands community. And then if, God forbid, something a little bit more serious is happening to you or your children, we also have Loma Linda University Medical Center, and that's just in the next town over, Loma Linda, just a little bit further west. And that has a very highly ranked children's hospital where children will come really from all over Inland Empire, really from Southern California, to get the best care they need there at Loma Linda University. So again, definitely a pro. God forbid something terrible happens or you need specialized care, Loma Linda is just a very short drive away. Now, another pro of living here in Redlands, I would say, is just the amount of public exercise area that's available. You'll see here in and around Prospect Park, just an amazing opportunity for you and your family, whoever, just to enjoy early morning walks or evening, whenever. just really breathtaking scenery, and not just at Prospect Park, but also, up and down Highland Avenue is a very popular place for people to walk the dog, go for a jog, whatever it may be. Also, if you're into cycling, Redlands has, not every single road, but a lot of roads closer to downtown has a dedicated bike lane. So definitely a good area to cycle. Very popular for cyclists to loop around Sunset, really challenging, getting some elevation up and down. You can go further outside of Redlands. You can really take on some challenging rides going up to Yucaipa and perhaps even out past Yucaipa. And perhaps even into the mountains a little bit. So depending on your level and interest in cycling, there's definitely space and basically just like a general good attitude towards cyclists in the region. Now, with this, upcoming description of life, I'll kind of let you decide whether it's a pro or con. I think it depends on just your personal preference, but the scene in downtown Redlands has really, I wouldn't say exploded, but just really increased. Just the amount of shops that have opened and restaurants and the Orange Street Alley, everything has just kind of really improved, which from my perspective, I love it. We love going downtown, grabbing bites here, doing some local shopping here and there. Although not everybody exactly loves how much downtown Redlands has taken off. The old Redlands Mall, which is just on the other side of Orange Street from State Street, kind of shut down, I would say, almost 20 years ago, basically. It's still standing there, and CVS is still connected there and open and serves Redlands right there. However, very soon, and I'm not quite sure when this is actually gonna get going here, but here we are in June of 2023, and the proposition to finally tear down the Redlands Mall and build new residences, new condos in that area finally passed. And it took several years, probably more than several, maybe 4, 5, 6 years for the developers and all the interested parties to finally get things passed, because several groups in town tried not to let this happen. So whether, and there are some drawbacks, sometimes if you're headed downtown for dinner or whatever, and sometimes you just can't quite find a parking spot, like stuff like that. It's really crowded. People, come from the surrounding areas, come from Highland, come from Yucaipa, come from other cities around the Inland Empire, to enjoy what Redlands has to offer. And so some people aren't really, enamored with that many people coming to Redlands and think Redlands is overcrowding. From my perspective, I don't mind having to drive around the block a couple more times to find a parking spot. I think the thriving State Street and Orange Street Alley is a great thing for Redlands. So you'll just kind of have to think for yourself whether that's a good thing for Redlands or not. Another thing that has happened recently is it's called the Aero Train. Recently opened here in Redlands. It connects to a train station in San Bernardino. So we have more public transportation. I think it also connects to the train station in Riverside. So you can plan days where you're not even starting your car, or maybe you drive your car to get to downtown Redlands to hop on the train. But downtown Redlands has definitely evolved and progressed over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Now, whether you like that or not is something you'd have to consider. From my perspective, I love it. Okay, I really appreciate you sticking around for this entire video. Like I promised at the beginning of the video, what I'm about to talk to next is what I referenced earlier, is just downtown Redlands and Redlands taking off in general. Now you're gonna have to decide for yourself whether that's a pro or con. In my perspective, it's a pro, but this is definitely something that has developed in Redlands over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Now, another con of living in Redlands is we do have an element of homelessness, unfortunately. It's not everywhere. I wouldn't consider it rampant. Actually, my wife and I went down to San Diego, I'd say in the last 2 or 3 months. And we actually notice how the homelessness in San Diego has actually, unfortunately, a little bit worse. We used to go down there all the time when we first started dating, before we had kids. But from our perspective, San Diego has gone downhill a little bit in that regard. But here in Redlands, you know, we do unfortunately have some folks that you'll see kind of walking around town, you know, that will, you know, be begging for money and this and that. I wouldn't say, you know, definitely I haven't experienced any real problems in terms of, you know, any violence or really anybody being too inappropriate. But, you know, you will have people, if, you know, you exit the freeway on Alabama Street or Tennessee, you know, those major exits off the 10, you know, you will see people, you know, with their signs out asking for money and this and that. So I think, you know, to a certain extent, you're going to see that in a lot of different places. So Redlands is no exception. So is it a con? A little bit. Is it a huge problem? I wouldn't consider it a huge problem here in Redlands. Okay, so thanks for sticking with me throughout this whole video here. We went through our list of pros and cons, and hopefully that gives you an idea of what life is really like here in Redlands. You know, I don't want to sugarcoat everything for you and say it's absolutely amazing, because there are some things that, you know, perhaps wouldn't be your cup of tea and would take some getting used to. But overall, I think that the pros definitely outweigh the cons living here in Redlands. So with that, if you ever feel the need to reach out, please do not hesitate. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, and we would love to show you around town.